So here we are on the final stage of putting this block together. You might remember way back in, I don't know, stage 2 or 3, something like that, we cut out the background square and we marked around the freezer paper, which is this outside line here, this one here, and we'd marked where the points are. Now you need to just mark a 1/4 of an inch in so that you've got your seam allowance. I did start to cut it freehand by eyeball, but then I decided no, I was going to go a wee bit squiffy going around a curve, so I decided just to mark a 1/4 of an inch and freehand draw around it so that I've got a reasonably accurate circle. So your 1/4 of an inch seam allowance needs to be inside the circle, inside of this this part here. Okay. So once you've cut out the circle, just remove that piece. You're not going to need that piece now, so you're just left with this outer edge. And before we actually want to bring the centre circle in to start working with it, you want to clip round the curves of this, but be very careful. Get yourself a hold of a small sharp pair of scissors, and you need to clip the curves in order for the seam that you're going to make to fit together with the two pieces, to give it a bit of ease, because if you're trying to fit this and stitch it, this will be tight. So we want to clip the curves, but no closer than 1/8 of an inch to the drawn line here that you have left. So just clip round every little bit, just, you know, I don't know, 1/2 inch or 1 inch apart, and just clip all the way around that circle, just so that you have a little bit of ease. But be careful not to clip right up to the line, and certainly not over the line, or you're going to end up damaging the piece. So just do this slowly and carefully, and keep your clips at least 1/8 of an inch away from the drawn line. Now, I know you won't be able to see that properly, but I have clipped all the way around the edge of this. And I would say to you at this stage, be really careful when you're handling this piece, because this circle part that you've cut out is effectively cut on the cross, and therefore that makes it really easy to stretch, and you don't want to do that. So handle it really carefully when you're working with it. Now, when you're going to work with this, you need to be very careful that you're going to be accurate with your point matching. So I'm just going to start down at the bottom here, and this is the kind of central point. Now, I don't have any particular points that are different to the others, but these bigger points are the main points of the compass. So you've got north and south and east and west here. So make sure you don't want to make one of these. I don't suppose it would matter much, but trying, yeah, for me, I'm going to try and make it, this is my north and south. So I'm going to take that one, and we need to go right sides together. So take the right side of this piece and the right side of your background piece, and I'm going to match those long points up just at the central point at the bottom. And I want to just make sure that the point of the point underneath, you can see that, is matching up with there. So I'm just going to do my best to get that in there. I might need to make some small adjustments as we go along. But what I'm going to do is I'm just going to go around and I'm going to pin every piece. So this piece is effectively going to drop into the centre. So I'm going to match up each point as I go round, because the points are all marked, so I should be able to do that okay. So I'm going to match up that point with the seam allowance, and we'll just see how we get on with that. We'll see how easy it goes in. Hopefully fairly easy. Just keep going round and matching up all your points, and make sure you're just keeping that bit into the centre. So now we have it all pinned in place. I've pinned each of the points, and as you're going round, just be careful that this bit doesn't get twisted or turned inside out. You'll soon see that as you're going. So basically, once you've got it all pinned, we're just going to flip it over, and we're going to just check that our points are in the right places. And it looks a little bit puckered at the moment, but that'll come out with pressing and once it's stitched in place. And when you're stitching, you basically want to skim the bottom point here of all of these so that you get a nice point at the bottom. You don't want to cut it off halfway, so you get as close to the tip as you can, and you can probably see as you're going along, you'll see where your stitching has formed the point there. So if you can try and run your stitching along there where your stitching has formed the point. I mean, don't make it wiggly if it's a wee bit out, but just skim the point as closely as you can. Now, as you're stitching this piece, just stitch to the inside of the penciled line, not a huge bit, but just so that your marked line, you've got a nice line to follow there, but just so that your marked line isn't going to show once it's turned round the other way. And be very careful as you're going, because you're sewing around a curve, that you don't get puckers particularly, and the top one's going to lie flat because it's the circle, but the one underneath could have a tendency to pucker because it's having to accommodate the other circle. So try to make sure that you don't have any puckers on it. So there we are, ladies, that's the completed block. I hope you'll enjoy making it. It's not as scary as you think it's going to be, and remember, if you get stuck, give me a shout.